So now we have this new expansion in the logging, new expansion in Stevens Point itself. It actually came back around to the logging industry with a new development. And that new development was the old Canadian National Railway line, or the Soo line. And this really opened up logging in Stevens Point basically to the rest of the state and the nation. It not only transported people, but it transported supplies and it transported lumber. Now it really opened up the lumber industry for a year-round industry. Before you had to wait for the snow and the ice to melt away so you could transport your logs down to the mill. Now you have a railway to do that job for you. It's also opened up the woods to a lot of places that couldn't be accessed by the river before. So eventually this led to a lot more cutting of trees that probably wouldn't have happened if that railway hadn't developed. So at this time, Wisconsin's #1 economic activity obviously was logging, and their export was the timber or the lumber itself at this time. Wisconsin was #1 in forestry products during this time of all the states. The tides started to turn around the early 20th century. Early 20th century. And the logging industry wasn't so good anymore because of things like clear cutting. At first they only took valuable timber like things like this, and eventually they ended up just taking whatever was on the land. They would clear cut, which would lead to things like erosion, sedimentation, and other problems that developed, mainly a loss in soil fertility. There was also a shift from logging to things like agriculture and to other businesses. Instead of demanding pine, a lot of people were demanding other hardwoods for products, and basically business started to move elsewhere. So this led to a new era in Stevens Point's history. A lot of new businesses sprang up, so insurance businesses, businesses in communication, businesses in finance, really transformed our downtown and our city as we know it. No longer were they feeding the needs of loggers, they were feeding the needs of the residents that had really begun to diversify and expand their businesses. So our downtown changed quite drastically from the pictures that we saw before. However, some of our forests have come back. Obviously this is uniquely reserved here at the bottom of our screen. We have the Wisconsin River up here. And you can see that forest cover has made its way back to Stevens Point. And if you've ever been through Chinook Reserve, or really any of the forests around here, you can see that the white pine has also made its way back as well. But the legacy, I think, is really our university. And maybe I'm just biased and probably going to go there. But a lot of you probably know, as an undergraduate and both graduate degrees, they focused a lot on natural resources and forestry in particular. There's many majors at the university. Forestry recreation, urban forestry, and forestry administration, just to name a few. There's also a student group on campus that has helped keeping a lot of these activities that the loggers once performed as their job. Now they actually compete in competitions, timber sport competitions, and kind of help keep this legacy alive in these games. And now obviously we do have some different tools of the trade as well, power tools, chainsaws instead of the axe and the criss-cut saw. And these people, I think, are really helping us to keep that forestry legacy alive on our campus. Through games, through timber sports, through activities, through majors. But I think it's important to not forget our roots, those logging roots, which really help form Stevens Point as a city, helped form a lot of the businesses, built a lot of our homes, and eventually came around to the railway being developed. And I think that's really the founding of our city itself. And hopefully, you learned a little bit more about why we're named the gateway to the Pineries. Now you know what's on the side of your garbage can and what that actually means. Or when you come into the city, when it welcomes you with that big sign saying, "Welcome to the gateway to the Pineries." It's really what our city's about, these white pines. And hopefully we can help keep that legacy alive. So with that, if you're a little interested in more information There's some great resources out there. The University Archives, which is located on the 5th floor of our library. They have really great, just boxes upon boxes of old photographs, books, essays, you name it. You can stop by there. It's open to the public, and they have very nice librarians out there. They're always willing to lend a hand. They get really excited when people come in there to the archives. And the Portage County Historical Society is also kind of housed within the archives themselves. But with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming. If you guys have any questions or anything, I'm going to stick around afterwards. Otherwise, feel free to check out some of the tools of the trade back in the day. So thank you all for coming.